Hello everyone, Itai here. We are in JFK, or I should say Idlewild Airport, as it was called back then when this beautiful DC-6 was at the peak of its service as the frontline prop liner, most modern state-of-the-art at the time, because John F. Kennedy was at the time, to my knowledge, alive and well. So yeah, 1950s. I'm trying to get a grip on this beast. To be honest, I didn't find it too intimidating like some of the videos I watched online are. It's a nice combination to me between a multi-engine prop, which it is, to the modern jet. People are saying this is a monster of complexity. I'll tell you a secret. The modern jets are very complex. They have really complicated systems, and if you really understand what is done in the background, it's pretty complex. The thing is, a lot of it is automated, so the average sim pilot is not really aware of what the systems are doing. In this aircraft, however, we just have to do most things ourselves. Anyway, as part of my own training, I just wanted to feel how this airplane acts on a takeoff with an engine failure scenario. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Just to clarify, it's not an actual training scenario that I came up with, or an actual training scenario that is from real life. It's just me getting to know the aircraft, and as part of it, I think it's an important part is to lose an engine on V1, and I'm just training myself based on the written material that PMDG have given us. So don't expect professional level stuff. It's just me, a professional pilot, true, but getting to know a new to me airplane, using my own tools and kind of having fun with it in a way. So what are we going to do today is basically I'm going to eliminate all the decision-making part out of the equation. I'm not going to debate whether or not the engine has failed. It will fail. I will not try to restart it. Mentally, I'm going to simulate that it has been going through some oil leak or whatever, something very evident that takes out of the question whether or not we should just feather the engine and bring it back to land here in Idlewild, later to be called JFK Airport, doing the ILS runway 22. So just looking at the paperwork real quick, let's bring it over here. So looking at, this is the PMDG DC-6 operations manual. Going to the recommended or emergency procedures and troubleshooting stage. It doesn't give us too much to go by. So let's first dig into the engine failure on takeoff. If an engine should fail when the takeoff speed is below the critical engine failure speed, the remaining engines should be cut and the airplane be stopped, which is kind of, to be honest, the language here is kind of weird. It's not really the professional way to phrase it. If the speed is above the critical engine failure speed, the takeoff should be carried through as follows. Raise the landing gear after being safely airborne. Feather the propeller of the failed engine immediately. That should be ideally taken care of by the auto feather, by the way. Close the cowl flaps on failed engine. Continue straight climb at takeoff power to a safe altitude before raising the wing flaps, and reduce power to rated on the remaining engine, so I will take it as METO power. Let's go back to the, so that's not a lot to go by, and that go around from missed approach. It's weird that it's under the emergency procedures because a go around is a normal procedure. We do that every time. It could be done just because there's another airplane on the runway still, so we go around. It's a very normal maneuver, but 4-engine go around and 3-engine go around, I'll save you the trouble. Basically, it says that basically we apply the same procedures if we have to go around. Back to the emergency procedure, let's talk about propeller feathering procedure. Phase, so feathering, master controls on manual, selector to feather, mixture control, idle cutoff, fire extinguisher selector, valve handle pull out. This closes the firewall shutoff valve. Handle should not be pulled until after the propeller is feathered. Okay. Phase 2, cowl flaps close, gear and wing flaps check, fuel booster pump off, generator off, ignition off, fuel tank selector valve off, crossfeed valves off. If the propeller continues to windmill and will not feather, the fire extinguisher selector valve handle may be pushed halfway to detent oil on position. On feathering, we're not expecting to do today, so I'm going to keep this. This is actually good. This is what we want to kind of have memorized. Okay, so I'm going to bring this cheat sheet to my other screen here, and now let's jump into the cockpit real quick. And before we actually take off, I will say this: I did the homework. I set up the weight and balance. We weigh about 90,000 pounds, and engine thrust is a little bit high. Okay. We weigh about 90,000 pounds, which brings us a V1 of 99, V rotate of 103, and a V2 of 108, and a V flaps of 123. Our takeoff dry power is 2050 bhp, RPM 2700, manifold pressure 55. METO power is bhp of 1800 with RPM of 2600 over manifold pressure 46.5. And the landing flaps, should we come back here with flaps 40 this time I took, is a VIRF of 116 and V approach of VIRF of 111 and V approach of 116. Speaking of the departure is a fairly straight up one. It's basically, I forgot to set the instruments here, so we got what is it, 115.9 and hold on, technical hiccup, excuse me, 115.9 and 1095 on the standby. And we do want to have we're set for the local altimeter, and then I'll do a proper departure briefing. Boom, boom, boom. 221, which is a runway heading, and 221. As well, beautiful. What else do we have here? Everything else should be set up already. Let's see real quick. Yep, everything looks good to me. It's just breezing through everything here. Yep, it does look good to me. I'm not sure. Yeah, I might as well set it to 5,000 here. Bum, 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 bum. What else did I forget? I don't think much. Checklist ready and run. I did cheat with the automatic flight engineer here. Whoop. So now we can say goodbye to him. Okay, and CDI to VLOG. Beautiful. So, runway 22 right in Idlewild. The departure itself is going to be straight out runway heading 221 up to 5,000 feet, and then ATC vectors to our first fix. If we lose an engine, it's still MSA around here is on the departure sector is 2,000. So 2,000 is a safe altitude, and we will also maintain runway heading until we want to come back. And if we do want to come back, we have the standby 109.5 and 221 already set up on the instruments. for the ILS runway 2 to right. Same runway, we do have the performance, everything is checked. So let's give it a go. Okay. So parking brake is off. I'm on the brakes. And move my stuff here around, arrange the cockpit a little bit better. That's good. Alrighty. Set 30. And set takeoff power, we're talking about 55 inches. And airspeed live, engine instruments look good. Keeping it straight on the center line. V1, engine failure. Keeping it on the center line with my rudder. And rotate. Very gently. Still keeping it straight. Positive rates. Gear up. Flaps. Flaps up. Maintaining the runway heading, the ball in the middle as much as I can. And set METO power, so it's 46.5 with 2600 RPM. We do want to feather, of course, but right now I'm just flying the plane, and as soon as I can I will feather it. Right now we are climbing. I'm trimming a little bit of the rudder, and we are capturing 139, which should be a nice speed to climb on. A little bit more right rudder here, and we are on the runway heading and barely climbing, but kind of making it through. So I'll try to get the engine taken care of, making sure that we are indeed feathering the prop. Mixture control idle cutout. So let's get rid of the lock and number 1 confirmed and idle cutout and back over there. Let's get back on the speed and on the center line. Speed is the most important thing we can keep. Engine, the rest of the engines look good as far as I can tell. Fire extinguisher valve to runway 1 to engine 1 confirm pull. Confirm pull. Now we'll wait with the phase 2 until we're a little bit level off for the time being. It looks like we have a good feathered prop based on the RPM 0. And we're climbing on, let's try to keep 139. I'll try to trim us for that. And it looks to me like we're almost completely trimmed. A little bit more right rudder trim, a little bit less nose up. And we're trying to climb straight ahead to 2,000 feet. Now my yoke is centered. A little bit more right rudder. And very slowly, very calmly climbing straight ahead on 140. And that should be good for now. So let's just make sure that the flaps are up, the gear is up. Fantastic. And we are doing a nice job climbing so far. So passing 1,000 feet, we are doing good on METO power and on the radial. Soon we will start turning because we will bring it back to land here. But while we're nice and stable, I do want to finish securing the engine. So phase 2 on the securing, cowl flaps on number 1, confirm off, confirm off. Gear and wing flaps are checked. Fuel booster pump for runway 1 off. Main fuel pump, that's off. Let's check where we're going. Nice and stable, I like it. Ignition number 1, confirm off. Fuel tank selector valve number 1, confirm off, off. Cross-feed valves off, they are off. And engine feathering is complete. The propeller is no longer windmilling. So we're going to level off at 2,000, but we are over the ocean, and it might be a good idea to start turning towards a downwind here, so we can eventually land back here. So make a gentle turn at 15 degrees bank. We could go all the way to 25 or even 30, but I don't want to impede my climb performance. So I'm going to keep it a nice shallow 15 degrees bank. At least until 2,000, and with the speed stable. So right now, no autopilot at all. Honestly, it's a lot of workload to just use it for not much of a gain, because this airplane is very nicely stable once you get it trimmed. Trim is really nice tool of handling it. Almost coming up on 2,000 here. Just keep it going, turning all the way to 040, basically making a nice downwind here. Here's 2,000, so I'm gonna level off, keeping the props high because speed is my friend. So I'm going to let the airplane speed up until about 165, and then I'm going to reduce the thrust a little bit because the remaining engines are also my friends. Get back to 2,000. We will also gain us some speed, and I'm ready with the rudder for that change of engine power, because here we're coming on 165, and now let's go to basically what would be climb power. So let's go to about 38 inches and 2,500 RPM. Oop, a little bit descending. Trimming again for the level flight. Very nice. We're heading 040. That's a nice downwind. Actually, you know what? That's something that we need to consider, that we are effectively drifting to the left because of that engine failure. So I'm going to take a little bit of an offset on the heading to make our track actually correspond with a downwind here. So 060, about 20 degrees, sounds reasonable to me. Let's just for giggles get the autopilot on. Can I at all do that? Might not be able to be honest. Okay. I believe the airport is right there, but we are flying instruments. Let's set up the approach. So we're just basically going to switch CDI1 to the ILS. I do want to keep number 2 pointing at JFK VOR, which coincide with the airport, so it's going to help us with shooting the approach. Drifted a little bit off of our heading. I think 060 will make us a nice downwind. I also don't want to keep it, I don't want to get too tight to the airport because I want to create a nice base turn here. Back to 2000. Scanning is very vital here. And I'm constantly trimming. It's less easy to trim than usual, but nevertheless, the most helpful tool to the pilot is a good trim, because then you can think, you can do some work. I'll be honest with you, I did try to set up the sim to have nice instrument conditions to make it a little bit harder on us. For some reason, I guess I didn't set it up right. So that's the case. And we're on a downwind here. I do like the speed. Maybe we'll even reduce a little bit of the power. Drifting a little bit to the right here. I'm going to just increase that a little bit. We do have a good reading. In reality, I would check the signal on both the on the Morse code, that is on the localizer. I'm not going to do that now. Otherwise, I think we're looking good. And I'm not going to look at the runway. I did want it to be instrument conditions. No, let's see if I can make it a little bit more instrument. Yeah, that was supposed to be 400. So let's do that. There it is. Should make it just a little bit harder. And just need to do a lot more scanning. So far looks good. 2000, good speed. And my yoke is almost centered. I just help it just occasionally. And then trimming to try to not have to help it all the time. Make it a nice long downwind for a nice for a long final eventually. Okay, I'm gonna use the time to call the PA. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain speaking. During takeoff we have experienced an engine failure. Luckily we have 3 more, so we're coming back to land in Idlewild Airport. Once we get on the ground, the gate agents and flight attendants will be happy to assist you with new plans for your trip. In the meantime, I do ask that everybody remain seated with your seatbelts fastened until we're safely on the ground, where we will get to, we will see what gate we're going to, and take care of the rest from there. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon on the ground. Here we go. We did our PA. How we're looking on the VHP. I'm not used to looking at VHP. Yeah, VHP is nice and low and comfortable. I like the speed, 165, 170. It means I can always get the first notch of flaps whenever I choose to. I'm getting good reading on the localizer and glide slope. So let's see, briefing the ILS to right, it's chart 21-5, localizer is 109.5, set on my side. It is on standby for your side, on the right side, for potentially switch later on. Honestly, I'm thinking to just keep it on standby, just in case. Final approach is 221 set. We got matter. Final approach fixed at 1900 feet. Decision altitude 263. MSA 2000 in all of our sectors. If for some reason we wander off to the northwest sector, it is 2900. But we'll try to keep it this way. And special, we are only 3 engines. So if we do go around, I will ask for just radar vectors off of runway heading. It is a 3-degree glide slope. There's PAPI on the left side, no approach lights. We're gonna need at least 4,000 feet RVR, 3/4 mile visibility. We do have that, and we're expecting to see the runway just before hitting minimums. Special, it's gonna be a flap 40 landing with the ref of 111, the approach of 116. We can call it 120 for additional buffer. And we are on an emergency. We should be getting a priority. And if we do go miss, it's going to be a max power. So it's max power straight ahead. When we get positive rate, we'll get flaps 20 and a positive rate gear up. And at that point, we will continue straight ahead to 2000 and try this again, basically. That being said, I think we might just be ready for our base turn. So turning now, let's see, 310. Now we do have the full range, so I can bank a little bit more. But I do need considerable back pressure when I do this. On the yoke. 2000 looks good. That will be our intercept ILS, intercept glide slope altitude, based on the vectoring that I'm self-inflicting on myself. How we're looking on the DME, about 18 miles. That's good. That's a good final approach. It's a good base leg. Keeping it clean as much as I can. It's always easy to lose energy, especially in this airplane, especially in this configuration. It's not as easy to regain that energy if we need to. I will presume no descent and approach checklists. To be honest, we were just taking off, so we're basically ready to do the same things again. I just need to get the props forward. I'll do that on final. just for smoothness of operation. Self-vectoring here, getting back to a heading of 310. Our base leg, from base we're going to turn to the intercept heading, so we'll make it around a 260 heading to intercept the final approach of 221. Let's see how that works out for us. Even the 250 might be even better. So far looking good. Fairly trimmed here. Don't need to do much inputs. To those of you struggling to fly instruments in real life or the sim, that's a big tip I have for you from instructing many students. Trimming is a forgotten art. You learn it on the first and second lesson on your private certificate VFR, and then the assumption is you know how to trim and you never visit this again, when in reality this is one of the common errors, most common errors in instrument flying. Just trim your airplane fine and you have a lot more time to think. Slightly back to the heading. We're about to turn base here. We can see that the RMI here is pointing towards the station, and when it gets to 220 it means we're about lining up with the localizer. That's a good time. I'm going to start turning to 250 and then wait for the localizer to come in, maintaining 2000. Speed is looking good. Like I said, I'm not eager to slow down, so I'm keeping the airplane clean for now. Here is heading 250 on 2000, waiting for that localizer. Light slope seems to be live, which is okay. And we're pushing the head of the RMI needle towards 221, and that should symbolize to us when we're roughly getting close to the localizer itself. The localizer should also be roughly co-located with the VOR. Not necessarily, just in this case they are. And it's a good situational awareness tool to when are we expecting to see that localizer to start coming alive. There it is, localizer live. Shallow turn to intercept, trying to shoot for the perfect runway heading roughly around the localizer centering. So making it nice and gentle. The VOR indication, excuse me, the localizer and glide slope indication is not as easy here because you have to scan at the same time with the gyro compass below to match what your actual heading is. Okay, since we are on final, fairly established, a little bit still undershooting, so correcting it, but I can get the flaps first notch here. Airplane wants to climb a little bit. I'm preventing it from it. I'm not touching the engine thrust at all. The airspeed is naturally decaying on its own. Back to the altitude. Localizer is still creeping in, making it very nice and smooth back. Waiting for the glide slope to come in as well. Speed is looking good. And again, I'm not touching the engine thrust at all. Just letting the speed decay on its own based on the drag that I'm introducing one notch at a time. Localizer and glide slope are live. Here's the glide slope. Localizer still outside. I'm fixing for it, but here we go. Go gear down, flaps 20, and start a shallow descent. Barely touching the trim, letting the drag get the speed down. And the trim kind of... There you go. That looks fairly good. Localizer, glide slope. Reducing the thrust a little bit. Prop comes forward. And back on the localizer. Back on the glide slope. A lot of scanning. Scanning is really imperative here. Let's go one more notch of flaps. Flaps 30. Back to the localizer, so left turn, and it's in, back to the right. Descent rate is a little high, correcting for that, and flaps 40. Oh, excuse me, now it flaps 20. Flaps 40. Now we can go to our VREF. Back to the localizer, whoops. Back to the glide slope. And here's VREF. Whoops. Need a lot of power, I guess, on this one. Leveling off for some reason. So back to the glide slope. That was a little bit aggressive, sorry guys. Back to the localizer, back to the glide slope. Speed is looking good. I'd rather have a little bit more than less. Ball comes back to the center. Starting to see some ground contact here. Glide slope a little bit high, correcting for the localizer as well. It wants to run away, so I'm not gonna let it. And runway in sight, landing. A lot of displaced threshold. I'm gonna shoot for the 1,000 foot markers. Confirming 3 green again, because to be honest I did not glance at it when I had to before. I was too busy. Or should I say fixate. Back to the center line. Can reduce a little bit of power. And again going for the 1,000 foot markers. Power slowly to idle. And here we go on the runway. Back on the center line. Reverser. And touching the brakes ever so slowly. And we made it. Parking brake set. And let's try to get out of reverse. There we go. And get to 1,000. Very nice. That was cool, guys. That was cool. I loved how it worked. Let's look at it from the outside. Look at this. We are feathered. Flaps 30. And we made it back to the same runway here. In Idlewild Tower. Idlewild Field. Okay guys, that would be it for this. A quick channel maintenance. I just want to let you know I have been pretty busy in my real life, but I want to provide you with more and more videos. So stay tuned for that. Also, I've been working on getting a new computer that would make Microsoft Flight Simulator and X-Plane look amazing, and I'm really looking forward to it. I already ordered it from Best Buy, waited for the delivery to come. It did arrive and it was broken. So I went to the closest Best Buy, exchanged it, and now waiting for the next one. It's gonna be great, and I hope you stay tuned for that. If you have any comments, suggestions, ideas, obviously I am planning to make content with the DC-6. I think it could be a very interesting airplane, and I'm getting the hang of flying it. So if you have any suggestions, I'm open to them. Also, other airplanes are in store. I'm not gonna give up everything, but if you do want to support the channel, please feel free to do so by liking, commenting, all that stuff. And I did also set up a Buy Me a Coffee link, so yeah, feel free to buy me coffee. I'll really appreciate that. It'll give me the support that the indication that I wanted. You guys are liking the content and you want to see more of that. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you on the next one, and happy flying.